So what is up, Africana fam? It's your girl Young Africana back at it again with another video, and today is day 3 of the love series. We are serving Purple Rain Prince up in this ish, okay? But if you guys want to see how I achieve this color, this makeup, and its install, then keep on watching. So starting off with the coloring, we're going to go ahead and do the watercolor method, and I'm using the Kiss Colors semi-permanent dyes in the color Purple Passion and Vivid Violet, and then the Adore semi-permanent in the color Violet Gem. And I'm going to go ahead and mix that into a warm bucket of water. And I'm going to mix those 3 colors inside and use my comb just to mix around the dye and the water so that there are no flying dye. And I'm going to go ahead and dip my bundles in it. I am using my 613 bundles. It's Body Wave, and I have two 26s and a 24, and the frontal is a 20-inch. And this is from my personal vendor, aka my future wig line, so stay tuned, y'all. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and just dip the bundles inside and just keep on dipping it and combing through it until you get the color that you're looking for. Now for the frontal, I went ahead and parted the frontal in 4 sections, 2 sections on each side of the middle part. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Vivid Violet and the Intense Purple and mix those 2 up. I'm going to use my dye brush just to paint the perimeter around each section. So as you guys can see, I'm using my comb as well just to kind of comb through it so there's like no harsh line of demarcation. And I'm just tackling the perimeter first before I go ahead in between those sections. And I'm going to use about small sections just to dye the roots. The roots are a bit longer than I usually would go for just because I wanted that nice ombre effect. So like I said, I'm just using my paintbrush and I'm going to, well, my dye brush, and I'm going to just go in sections and dye the roots. And I'm just making sure that the dye matches up to where I had did the perimeter of the hairline. And I just like to go back and forth in between each section. I like to go under and over just to make sure that every hair strand is saturated with dye. Now on to the second section, I'm going to be doing the same exact thing, using my dye brush just to dye around the perimeter of the hairline. And then I use my comb just to kind of diffuse those harsh lines. And then I'm going to go in between sections just to dye the hair. And I'm going to do that throughout the entire frontal, so it's pretty repetitive, and I'm going to let y'all watch that. So this is how it is looking. I'm gonna go ahead and let that sit for about a couple of hours, and I'm gonna go ahead and rinse it out with some warm water. So now on to the ombre part, which is the blonde part. I'm gonna use my shimmer lights and some warm water in a bucket, and I'm going to just mix up that mixture with my comb just so that there's no shampoo flying around. And I'm using that because I don't have a lavender color, you guys. So this is my trick to do lavender. So I'm going to go ahead and just tone the hair with the purple shampoo. It's like a nice gray type of color. And you're just going to keep on dipping and combing through the hair until you get that nice silver type of undertone for the blonde. Now I'm going to my Kiss Colors in the color Orchid, And as you guys can see, it is a nice gray color. I'm going to use just a squeeze of the dye, not too much. And then I'm using my comb just to mix the dye around. And I'm going to dip the hair. And I did add a little bit more dye just so it could be more on the purpley side. And this is how I got my lavender. So if you do not have a lavender color, just know that you can always make one with some purple shampoo, 613 hair, and a purple dye. And just use as minimal dye as possible. So I went ahead and make the hair into a wig and let that air dry. And now I'm just going to go ahead and flat iron. I'm not going to show too much of this because flat iron is pretty repetitive. So I'm just going into the tracks, flat ironing, and then I like to save my frontal for last. And I'm using my Babyliss Titanium Pro flat iron. And now I'm going into the frontal. I like to flat iron the frontal in little sections and then go in with my hot comb to flatten out the roots. Because I'm doing like a nice bust down type middle part, I want to make sure that the hair is nice and super flat. So that's what I'm just going to go ahead and do. I'm going to go ahead and just, hot comb it, hot comb the roots in between so it's nice and flat. And this is how we are looking, y'all. This is how everything looks once we are done. All right, now on to the tinselling. So I did get this tinsel here from Amazon, and so the tinsel needle as well too. And what I do is I just use the tinsel needle. I poke it through one of the holes inside of the lace. I'm going to then pull through. I fold the tinsel here in half at first, and I have it in a loop. I pull through and put the tinsel hair on the needle and pull it through, turn it around upside down, and then just pull. It's really hard. I learned this from another YouTuber. Her name is Vivian Beauty and Style. She got the same name as me, but yeah, she taught me how to do this. I'm still kind of new to this, but I got the gist of it. But yeah, shout outs to her for putting me on to game when it came to ventilating. So your girl know how to ventilate, at least, So yeah, that's just this isn't really a tutorial of how I tinsel hair. I'm just showing y'all the process. But yeah, I just pull it through, then I go ahead and wrap it around the tinsel hair, and then I turn the needle upside down and then just pull it. Hopefully that's like, I don't know, it's just like kind of like tying a knot, it's like crocheting. It's exactly like crocheting actually. So yeah, that was just how I did it. Alright, and this is the finished results once I am done. It looks so pretty, y'all. Now on to the install. I'm going to go ahead and cut some slits into my wig. I have it on my head, and I'm just going to go ahead and push the wig back. I already have my hairline cleaned off with 91% alcohol, and now I'm just going in with my Ericka J Hold Me Down adhesive guard, and then I'm going to go in with my Ericka J Hold Me Down adhesive, and I'm going to use 2 layers of that, and then use the middle tip of my rat tail comb just to smear out that glue. And I like to wait in between layers for it to dry completely before I add the next layer. Now that the second layer is dry, I'm going to go ahead and place the middle part down first, and then go side by side and placing the wig in front of the glue. Not directly on it or behind it, but right in front of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my blow dryer on medium heat, and I'm just going to go ahead and just use my comb and the blow dryer just to melt down that glue and the lace together. And now on to cutting the lace. I'm using my eyebrow razor to cut in a jagged motion right next to the hairline. And now for any parts that I did miss, I'm going back in with some glue and my rat tail comb, and I'm gonna kind of like just like outline where the lace ends, and I'm just gonna apply some glue there, and I'm gonna let it dry in between each layer before I press down the lace into the glue. And now I'm gonna go ahead and just part out some baby hairs, and I'm just doing 2 on each side of my head. I like to use my hot comb on medium heat just to press down that hair so it's nice and flat. And now to melt the lace, I'm going to go in with my Got to Be Free spray. I'm going to spray that all around the perimeter of my hair. Now I'm going to go in with my elastic band, and I'm going to tie it around my hairline and let that sit for about 15 minutes. And I'm just going to go in with my blow dryer on medium heat just to kind of dry off any of like the wetness from the hairspray, and let that sit for 15 minutes. Alright, 15 minutes is now up. I am taking off that elastic band and that hair is melted. Now I'm going to go in with my hot comb on medium to high heat, and I'm just going to go ahead and just press out the hairline just to make sure it's nice and flat before I start swooping my baby hairs into the hairline. And I'm using my eyebrow razor just to cut off some of the hair from the baby hair. I like to leave it about like an inch to an inch and a half long. And then I'm going to go in with my Nairobi setting lotion and a baby hair comb just to swoop my baby hairs into the hairline. So I already have my eyelids primed with some concealer that I usually use for my face. And I'm going into my Juvia's Place Warrior 2 palette in the color Walzana as my crease color. And then on top of that, I'll use Kufuru as my transition color. And I'm only using that on half of my eyelid, as you guys can see. And I went in with a baby wipe or a makeup wipe just to kind of clear off my lids. And to cut my crease, I'm going to be using my P. Louise base in the color Rumor 0.1. And I'm just using a concealer brush. This concealer brush is from Morphe. I believe it's the E38 brush. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and use that just to cut my crease. And then I'm using a shadow brush just to pat out that product so it's nice and flat and it's not wet. Now I'll be using that same shadow brush, and I'm going to use my Warrior palette from Juvia's Place, the first one, and I'll be using the color Ahosi as my crease color. And now I'm just using my black ColourPop lippy stick just to kind of like smudge out, give like myself like a smoked out type of wing liner. So I'm using that as like a base, and then I'm gonna go into that dark brown, the Walzana color, to kind of smoke out that wing liner. And now on top of Walzana, I'll be going back into that brown that I use in my transition color, which is the color Kufuru. I'm just going to go ahead and just smoke that out. So now that I have my face prepped and primed, I'm going to go into my foundation, and I'm using Uoma Beauty's foundation in the color T2C mixed with my Lancome Tint Idole in the color 560. And I'm using my Real Techniques Instapot brush just to buff out that concealer on my face. And then on top, I'll be using my Morphe small foundation buffer brush to buff out my my forehead, because it's a lot smaller than the rest of my head. And as you guys can see, I let the baby hairs dry and kind of lift up the baby hairs just to get in between, so like everything looks nice and together. But now onto concealer. I'll be using my Maybelline Asia Wine in the color Deep Bronze, and I'm applying it underneath my eyes, my mustache, my chin, as well as my nose and forehead. And then I'll be using my foundation brush just to kind of buff out the concealer into the foundation so that it is nice and seamless. Now I'll be going into my Laura Mercier powder in the color Medium Deep, and I'm just going to go ahead and use that to set my face. Now I'll be going into my Juvia's Place bronzer palette in the color Deep Dark, and I'll be using the darkest color to bronze around my cheeks as well as my nose. Now to smoke out my lower lash line, I'm going into my Warrior 3 palette from Juvia's Place, and I'll be using the color Candice just to smoke it out. And then I'll be using my Instapot brush just to take off any of the excess powder that I have on my face. And then back into the bronzer palette, I'll be using the dark one this time, and I'll be using that darkest shade inside of there. And then onto highlighter, I'll be using my Amrezy highlighter, and I'll be just applying that on the button of my nose and also on the bridge of my nose, as well as my Cupid's bow. Now I'm going to set and spray my face with my Morphe Continuous Spray, and then use my foundation brush just to pat that in. Alright y'all, now on to the hair again. I'm going to go ahead and do some pigtails. So I'm just using my comb just to part out the part where I want my pigtails to be, and I'm using my Got to Be Free spray and my hot comb just to train the hair upwards so I can prepare for the ponytail. So now I'm just going to go in with an elastic band, a small one at that, and I'm just going to go ahead and just do my ponytails, y'all. And now I'm applying some bobos. I got these bobos from my local beauty supply store, and I just used 3 of them. They're different colors, so I'm just doing that just to give myself some pizzazz. It's giving grape, you know? And now I'm just gonna go ahead and comb out my baby hairs so that you know, they're nice and non-crunchy, because you know I don't like crunchy baby hairs, y'all. And now I'm just reflat ironing the hair because it kind of got a little wrinkled, you know, with all that movement and stuff. And now I'm going to go ahead and use some leftover concealer just to define my part. Now I'll be lining my lips with my Italia lip liner in the color black, and then going in with my Juvia's Place lip liner in the color Kola. And as for lip gloss, I'll be using my NYX Butter Gloss in the color Vanilla Cream Pie. And then to top it, I'll be using my Juvia's Place lip gloss in the color So Glazed. And these are pretty much the finished results, y'all. Overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Go ahead and comment some purple hearts if you're at the end of this video. I hope y'all enjoyed day 3 of the Love series. Tomorrow is the season finale. So stay tuned and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.